Did you see that? There was a 5 and then a 1. My internet might not be stable. Life is full of work and stress. Parenting can be a mess. Being a woman is hard enough without adding on that extra stuff. We'll cover topics of every kind. Helpful resources we will find. We'll even drink a bottle of wine. Join us. It will be a real good time. Hi. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Nikki.
And welcome to Working Mom's Whine, where we drink a bottle of wine
and whine about our crazy working mom lives and try to find resources that are going to help us and you along the way when we're talking about serious topics.
Mm-hmm. And today we have a special in-studio guest, Coco.
This is our mom's dog, Coco. I'm puppy sitting this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
He traveled with us, and as most of you know, from listening to us, I say most of you as if there's a ton of you listening. We double record when we get together on the weekend with our kids. So it was just going to be too long for poor little Coco to be home alone. My dogs love the silence and lonely time. Coco does not. So he came along for the ride.
That's right. So he's going to be with us for this one.
He's a good lap dog.
He is a good lap dog. Coco, you're so chill. We were just talking about how he's well behaved and actually listens.
Much better than our own dogs.
Yes. Oliver might not listen simply because he can't hear me anymore.
My dogs are like that too, but they didn't listen when they could hear me, so I don't know.
Well, that's the thing. Like, when it first started, I was like, stop being such a stubborn old man. And now I'm like, no, I literally don't think he can hear me, because sometimes I walk up on him and he turns around and he's like, where'd you come from?
Yeah.
You just have a little nap and blend into my blanket.
Just snuggle up. You can do it. Mm-hmm. Nope. Sit.
Oh my gosh, he actually did it. Do you do down? Now that you're on the edge of the bed? Down. 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 We didn't ask for rollover. I do find that, like, every time you do sit and down, the dog, no matter what dog it is like, oh, well, obviously rollover is the next one. And then they just do it. But
quit flashing the camera, Coco.
Family show. There you go. So today's wine is the Yellowtail Sangrio Blanco. When we decided that we were going to get together, Nikki messaged me and she's like, hey, do you have an extra wine on hand? And I'm like, of course I don't. I'm a slacker these days. So she stopped and got one. And it says sweet and tropical, bursting with ripe peach and mango flavors with a hint of orange. I feel like you can really smell the orange.
Yeah.
Inspired by the traditional
mango
drink
too,
of
really.
Spain, Yellowtail's Sangrio Blanco combines a splash of fruit flavors with white wine.
It's very good. Very good.
I do love a good sangria. And I really like when you get, like, the pictures of it and they have the fruit inside of it.
Yes. That's the
so
best.
Good.
Oh, best sangria I've ever had was at the Cheesecake Factory. Did not expect it, but came out in a glass like this that was almost full.
Yeah.
And had the fruit in it, like bits of fruit, and I was like, yes.
Do they still have the one at that mall?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But rest in peace, Houlihan's is not. And that is where I used to get my favorite drink. And we were actually talking about this at work. Apparently this was a more than just our area phenomenon. And it would be very interesting to know if any of you guys have experienced this at your Houlihan's. I don't know how far across the United States they go or anything like that.
Yeah, it's franchise, but
you could get a pitcher of Long Island iced tea for $3.50 if you went on the right day.
And they were strong.
Yeah, and it's like, even if you were the only one drinking, or there was only a couple of you or whatever, and there was no way you were actually going to finish the pitcher, or maybe you were, and then you were just going to go around the mall and make some poor decisions, it made more sense to buy the pitcher than to buy an individual drink, because you're going to pay twice as much for one drink.
That was the perfect setup, and I never even connected the dots.
Well,
Let's
back then,
give you a picture of Long Island's and then send you to the mall to spend
I
all
was
your
going to
money.
say, back then they still had a bunch of stores and you could actually do that. But yeah, and I was talking to some people at work about that, and they're like, oh yeah, we loved that too in the city that they came from. Like, they all came from, like, my work originated in a different city and now has basically a branch in St. Louis. And so all of these people had moved down from the other city, and they had the same thing, the $3.50 pitcher. It's like infamous. So if any of you guys have also experienced that, I'd be
Comment
interested to know. Yeah. But it was, I miss that so much. Like, if you wanted to, especially because it was in college, so like, unless I was buying a cheap $5 bottle of something that tasted awful, like Houlihan's was like luxury.
I spent a lot of time at Houlihan's with you, with
He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Yeah, my ex-husband worked there for quite a while. Like, he was doing it full time at the time to try to like get us through.
Yeah.
He was in the Air Force in the National Guard, but had been doing a civilian position, and then they shut down the Air Force base that he was working at. And so
I didn't know they shut it down.
Yeah, there was like this middle time where they had gotten rid of the like civilian positions, knowing that it was going to shut down and they were going to transfer to the other base. And he wound up doing this job kind of like in the in-between so that we could pay our rent and things, which I'm so grateful for.
So out of curiosity around that, I know he did drill.
Yeah.
And obviously there's drill pay that comes along with that. Was he also working a civilian job there where like the Air Force was paying him as an employee?
Yeah. So he was in the National Guard doing drill weekends.
Right.
But also had a civilian position where he was paid full time for his role.
I don't think I knew that back then.
So he was there all the time and drill weekends.
Yeah.
At first.
Yeah.
And then they transferred out to the other base, and he just did drill at that point because it was hours from our home. And that's when he started doing the waiter job while he was going to school for tech stuff. But then he didn't actually finish the schooling, but he did wind up getting a position working for a specific office that a family member was connected to. And he wound up being able to kind of launch that into a career via experience instead of a professional degree or whatever. But certifications, all that good stuff.
Right. How interesting.
So it was quite a path.
Dealing with primarily VA loans now, I'm learning more and more not only about people who are currently active duty, but people who were either Guard that got activated for a while, or Guard and reserves that got activated for a while, or people who have civilian jobs on base, or maybe they're active duty and their spouse has a civilian job on base. And it's all very interesting. I came across the most badass job title I have ever seen in my life, and now I want to move in it and do this job.
Well, let's hear it.
So I was talking to a guy who is active duty, and his spouse, but basically he and his spouse ended up in South Korea for a little bit on deployment, and then they've been back for about a year, been renting, and they're just kind of at the point where like, hey, we want like a stable housing payment, because we all know how rent's been going these days. So I was getting everything worked up for him, but in this particular state, it is among a certain handful of states where you have to not only have that person's information, but a certain amount of information about their spouse as well. There's like probably anywhere from 6 to 10 states where this is a rule. I'd have to look them all up. But there are some states where even if you want to get the home mortgage only in your name, and even if we're not going to look at your spouse's credit scores and things like that as a determining factor on if you're going to get the loan, the state has a rule where we have to act like their debts, even if they're solo debts, are your debts.
Oh, okay.
And this is one of those states. So in that situation, what I do is it does require us to still bring in a credit report. So I bring all of that in, and I look at what their scores are. And if their scores are not going to be damaging to what they want to do, then I'm like, okay, do we have any income on this other person? Because that's going to help you qualify for more in general, because we have to include their debts whether or not they have income.
Okay.
So this person, their spouse, worked near the base as a professional civilian on the battlefield. And I said, excuse me, could you repeat that?
Professional civilian on the battlefield.
Yeah. And it's for like a whole different company and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, well, basically,
do tell.
This person pretends that they are the aide to the governor. There's a fake governor, and they pretend they're their aide. And we run and there's other people who pretend that they're different things. They set up a whole town, a whole city, whatever. They run military scenarios, hostage situations, all that stuff with these people as the actors.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's full time.
Well, gee, I think we just found your missing career.
I know. Because
oh
I do like acting. And I was like, why have I never heard of this before? I would 100% have packed up as a young person and gone and done this.
Full-time live there like it's their real neighborhood, and then they just...
I don't think so. I'm assuming a lot on my end here, because I did say on the phone, I was like, that sounds really cool. That sounds like a lot of fun. And the spouse was in the background, and they were like, sometimes. Well, they said sometimes it is. So to me, that says, okay, there's also a lot of prep work that goes into this. So whether that also involves strategy, planning, training materials, whatever, there's probably also some administrative work that goes into it. Probably, and then the days where you, and then the days where you actually act. And depending on how far they're going into the scenario, like maybe they're throwing flash bombs or whatever you call them. Like maybe you're getting hearing damage. Because I know, like, if you're in the actual military or guard or active or whatever, you have trainings where you're throwing grenades and things like that. And they've been proving lately that not only is there a hearing loss component there, but there can be a brain damage component there because of how close you are to the blast. Mm-hmm. So there could be things like that go into it.
Yeah.
But man, does that sound like a cool job. And if I did not have a bunch of kids, I might be tempted to pack up and go out there and be like, hey, I don't need Hollywood. Like, acting is fun. I will
kids
do this.
Ruin all the fun. I'm just kidding.
I know. Maybe I can be like, hey, how much would you pay me to send you my kid for the summer? And then you can have child actors.
I'll give them some real life experience.
So, but yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I don't remember how we got on that tangent.
I don't either. Oh, we were talking about Dan
hula hands, and then yes, okay, that's what it was.
Oh,
I'll cut that out.
Yeah. They couldn't just find his name from looking me up, but
I know we're gonna get ourselves in so much trouble. Today is a little bit more of a fun topic, and the only whining we're gonna do is Nikki's gonna whine that she doesn't have this at her job.
So whiny about this.
And by the end, by the time that I'm done talking about it, you will also be whining that you don't have it at your job. Hold on 1 second.
She's not gonna lie.
So I get to play this really fun game at work right now.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. And I did not, when she started talking about this, I did not understand the depth of it.
I don't know that I understood the depth of it.
And then even until maybe like last week when you kind of got to rejoin or whatever, and then I was like, oh, this is even more than I thought it was. Like, this is really
I got off of Redemption Island.
Let's hear it.
So,
Survivor-based. So think about Survivor.
At my work, they do these things called small groups. And you can either, read a book. How boring. I'm actually leading one around a book.
Don't say how boring. We're supposed to have a book club.
That's true.
Nobody's joined it, but we're supposed to have
What's really nice, too, is like the ones that I've been leading. Like, I did run one around Dungeons and Dragons, so that was more hobby-based. But most of the other ones I run are around a book. Yeah. And so I've been able to be like, okay, this is a good book.
Yeah.
This is a bad book. And I get to do it for free because they give me the book and they give the participants the book. But there are other ones that are around various different things. Maybe we're going to watch movies and talk about our opinion on those movies.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're going to learn how to braid hair or manage money or whatever. They bunch of different small groups over a bunch of different things. So this last time they were like, let's have a Survivor one and we can all watch the show and then get together and discuss the show. And also we're going to play some fun challenges.
And it came at a perfect time because we were playing this game on Facebook together, me and Amanda and our mom, where you could vote on who was going to do what. You could pick someone from each little group. And if they won something, you got more points.
Right.
And it was like a little kind of like fantasy football type Survivor game. And they quit doing it this year. So then in comes Amanda's small group, which has been our own form of watching this continue to happen.
And in my small group, they do have a website that kind of does a fantasy thing, but it's not near as good.
Yeah.
So the way that this particular website works, you pick in order of this is the person I want the most, or this is the person I want the least. And it doesn't matter if you're there live for the draft or not. They're going to draft it auto, and then like if someone's picked your person, then you get the next one, kind of a deal. So I'm going to put this out here now. If you are not caught up on this season and you care about that, don't watch any of the rest of this podcast until you have, because there's going to be spoilers. But when we picked our people, the only thing we had gotten to see so far was their introductory videos. So we had to go to the CBS website, watch the introductory videos, and that was all I had to judge these people off on. Mm-hmm. And I went for Q. He came from a large family. He seemed very accomplished. He seemed very educated. And I was like, you know what? This is a guy that I could see.
And he's like tall and a little muscly.
Yeah, he's strong, like an athlete. Yeah. So it's like, okay, he's got the physical thing going for him. He also has a good mental mindset. I think this guy can go far. I wanted him to be, I know. He's still in, but he's not going to win. There's no way.
And he did carry part of his team for quite some time, like through some competitions. Like,
sure.
He has some skills. They're just none of them are up here.
Yeah. And he doesn't know when to shut his mouth. Shut your mouth, Q.
This comes like out here and it's like, woo.
Yeah, there's no filter. He's very reactionary and he's very quick to swing from one side of something to the other.
Yeah.
He can't just like, all right, I'm going to hold on. There's new information and I'm going to sit back and think about this. It's like, nope, gut reaction. And that does not work well in Survivor.
And reaction, and then share it to all the people that I think are in this alliance that I built that really hasn't been that solidified. And so
yes,
it creates chaos.
So I have him on my tribe, and in this particular fantasy thing, each person gets 2 people in their tribe. And that person, those are the people that can earn you points, basically. Oof. And the other person I ended up with was Ben. And when I saw Ben's video, what's really funny is, like, to a large extent, he reminds me of an old college friend of mine.
Which one?
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yes! Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, my God! Oh, my God!
I'm cutting out who it was, but I just explained to Nikki who Ben reminds me of, and now she gets it.
It's so real!
So,
oh, my God, I'm, like, tearing up at how crazy that is.
So, yeah.
Oh, boy.
Ben reminds me of an old college friend of mine. And as much as I enjoyed that aspect of him, while I was watching the introductory video, I was like, I can see where he's this particular guy, not hating on my college friend, because obviously people have differences. I feel like I have to explain myself. This particular guy, I'm like, I can see where he's going to annoy people and not going to be a good choice. And there were a couple other people that I had put in my lineup in certain positions, like Maria, for instance. Mm-hmm. I was like, Maria's going to be awesome unless her mouth works like Q's.
Yeah.
But Maria has actually turned out to be like a very solid player.
She's very much reeled in.
Yeah. So good on you if you picked Maria. I think she's going to go far.
I do too.
But the person I picked...
She's strong. Like, physically. I mean.
Yeah. The person I picked to win the entire thing was Banu.
Wah, wah. He melted down so fast.
How did I do?
I get why you picked him, because when I saw his videos, I thought he was like, who's the guy that was Caroline's friend that was... He went really far in the last season.
Yum Yum?
Yeah, Yum Yum.
Jam Jam, or how
Jam Jam, Yum Yum. Banu reminded me of his personality a lot, and he made it really far because people really enjoyed that piece of him.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, this guy, he's going to be everybody's friend, and he's going to be like the mellow person of the crew.
Yes. I thought he was going to be mellow, and he has real life experience already living that way.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, cool. He's going to be able to build and live in a shelter.
Him off.
He's going to be able to eat whatever he wants around the island.
He's going to be able to survive on very little and like be functional in his brain.
Yeah. No.
Like used to that. No. He became extremely emotional. He had utter meltdowns where he was like literally on his hands and knees begging people.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm a religious
pity vote
person. But when you look at the heavens and you say to your God, why did you put me on Survivor if I'm not going to win, basically? Gods don't care about that.
That's not how this works.
I don't care what belief system you're in. Your deity does not care if you win a game show. That's not how that goes.
No.
So Banu was a
But
little
you were
too
kept safe. You didn't get hurt. You didn't get like
Yeah.
obliterated.
Yeah.
So in the Fiji island.
Yeah. So he was a little too unstable.
We digress.
I know.
He kind of melted down a little bit.
But all of that to say, you have that part of it, and then the only other thing you get to do is put votes in towards who you think is going to be kicked off. And of course, that was a lot easier to predict as you had 3 different tribes. And then when they did the initial merge,
Yeah.
but then 2 people were going to get out, no one knew that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So we made our votes based on the 3 different tribes, and then they did that, and we're like, oh, cool, no one's getting votes this week.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the other one where I don't know. There's something else that happened one
this
other week.
season has felt a lot more unpredictable as far as like when they're gonna merge, when they're and then they've like
which in a way I
continued
really
to
like
split up for some of the competitions in like really different ways. I feel like so it's like this week comes and you don't know who's gonna be in Group A and Group B, so you don't know who's gonna be fighting for a spot to get kept or kicked off, and so it's like really unpredictable.
And I feel like Jeff is at the point in his career where he's just going to say whatever he wants.
He gives no more F's, guys. He has no more F's to give. He is just in it to win it. Like he's enjoying his retirement years.
Right. Like the one time where they split them into 2 groups and it was obviously like one group had all the really good physical players and the other one was like, he was like, well, I think we all already know how this is going to go. And I'm like,
ouch.
What? Like, sure, maybe you do, but like, don't say that before it even starts.
I'm pretty sure he has a podcast. I kind of want to start listening to it now. I feel like he's brutal.
Yes.
We've all been missing it.
Yes, absolutely.
He's been edited to oblivion.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things that's coming into play this year. Someone in my small group brought this up. She thinks they have to have a new editor because we're seeing more slow-mo. We're seeing like the week that Liz and Mariah were on the bench. Is that who it was? There was a week.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they were on the bench during a challenge because, as you're trying to even things out, you have to let people sit. Mm-hmm. And so they have volunteered and they were sitting out and they're like just sitting there on the bench, just swinging their legs. And one of them looks at the other and goes, I like your shoes, like things like that.
They're just having these little side combos.
Yeah, and normally you wouldn't see as much of that, and the editor's like, "Oh, that's funny. We're gonna put that in." So it could be that like he's always said things like this, and we've just never seen it.
We're seeing a lot more of that. We're seeing a lot more of like when they're in these long competitions, the conversations he has with people, and like the funny little moments.
Right.
A lot more of that, which I like.
Right.
It's funny.
It's good.
It endears you to their characters. And it shows you people like you a little earlier than you maybe normally would have noticed their little snapbacks.
Right. That was really funny when he was like, my dad always told me to shut up. And then Hunter's like, you're not in the fight, shut up.
Yeah, that's always that. If the fight isn't yours, shut up.
That's the thing too, like, I don't understand how I did so well at the Big Brother fantasy because like when I looked at Hunter, I was like, nope, no way. And then like the show goes on and they're like, look at all these puzzles he's built, and he's like making beds.
Guys,
and
Hunter's my boyfriend. You ever hear this,
Hunter? If you're watching this,
I like your game.
But yeah, I did not expect Hunter at all. But so I'm not doing too well in Survivor Fantasy because it's very limited. And in the old one, you could pick from week to week, so you could start to see them play and be like, okay, I'm going to adjust my opinion based on this.
Yes,
and they would ask random questions like, do you think a challenge will involve water? Do you think someone will find an immunity idol? Blah, 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 blah. And that could all factor
kind of random
into it.
Stuff, but stuff if you've watched the show forever, you can kind of predict a little bit what might be coming, what might not be. But yes, as you saw how people worked with each other, you could change who you wanted to put your points onto.
Right.
And that was beautiful.
Yeah. So my small group,
we were good at that.
We would meet together and we give it a couple of days. So like Survivor airs on Wednesday, we wait until Friday to meet. That way, if you can't watch it on Wednesday, you've got Thursday to catch up. Yeah, or Friday before the group or whatever.
If you're watching at work.
Yeah, So we get together and we talk about the episode. And then, of course, we update our fantasy standings and all this other stuff. And then I showed up one week and there was Tribe 1 and Tribe 2 up on the screen. And I'm like, oh, are they dividing us up for, like, maybe one set of fantasy players are going to accrue points against another set of fantasy players and see who does the best or whatever? And we get in there, and she's like, we're dividing into 2 tribes. We're about to draw rocks. You guys are going to compete in challenges against each other. You're going to battle for immunity. There might be some idols showing up in a few weeks. She showed us what the idols were going to look like.
Yeah, the more you've gone through this and like talked about it, I'm like, dang, this is intricate. This lady planned this.
She has put a lot of work into it.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of
it's
work
impressive.
into it.
Hats off to you.
She even created our immunity idol. And I'm making assumptions here based on what, but it's like,
didn't you say she's like paper mache or something? Like it was like
something. It's a green star, and then behind it is it looks almost like a basket weaving. So I'm assuming that like she printed off the star part, put the Survivor logo on it, and then like attached it to a weaving that she had made.
You weaving papers together and shit?
I know for a fact she does crochet because she was also in my crochet small group. So we've started.
It's impressive, whatever it was.
We started affectionately calling her Jeff because she runs it. Or she runs the
Mrs.
competitions
Jeff.
And everything. Yeah. There's another girl who basically initiated the small group, and then Jeff runs it. So she thought up all this stuff. The first challenge that we did, where the tribes face off against each other, we each had to find a puzzle within this conference room we were in. Then she had wrapped it in a bunch of twine and put a bunch of knots around it. And she goes, you're not allowed to just like pull the twine off. You have to undo all the knots. And they were like the little bitty, like
just
the ones.
Just like other competitions.
Yeah, but they were the ones you find in your jewelry, and you're like, ugh, you know.
Oh gosh.
But
tweezers.
Yeah. So we got ours opened and put together before the other team managed to finish opening and putting together theirs. I think we had both been working on the puzzle at that point, and I don't know how much farther ahead we were. But we were very like, okay, edges first. And it was a Disney princess puzzle. So I'm like, these are Tiana pieces, and these are Merida pieces, and these are Aurora pieces. And so it was very easy to like separate things out and then throw it all together. Yeah. So we won the first tribal. And then the next week came, and with the first tribal, like the other tribe, they were like, what do we, they were just like way too nice about it. Like, should we just rock, paper, scissors for it? And they did. And so that's how the first person got out.
Bless.
I know. But in the second tribal, it was Survivor related trivia. And I have missed a few seasons. So we didn't know it was all going to be Survivor related. We just knew that we were going to be playing something on Kahoot. So obviously we're going to be playing trivia. Mm-hmm. And this was also the same week that we had the retreat for the team I was on at the time. So I very easily, everyone gets one bye in this group where you just don't show up and then you're not penalized. And then after that, if you don't show up, people can vote you out for not showing up, basically. So I had not used my bye week, but I was like, you know what? I've got time. I can go to Survivor small group. This is hella fun. I love this. And then we'll go to the retreat. I should have taken my bye because that was the week I got voted out. So
Womp womp.
I know. We were debating who was going to participate in the trivia and who was not, because obviously we had extra people. And so there was 1 or 2 people on our team that ended up needing to sit out. And I was like, I like trivia. I am a trivia person. But if it is Survivor specific, I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm not going to ace that. Like, there's going to be some things, well-known things that I know, but like, I have not watched quite a few seasons. Yeah. So I ended up being one of the ones that was in. And then I also had this issue of, I didn't realize that when you play Kahoot on your phone, if someone's hosting it and you're playing it on your phone, mm-hmm. that the answers are going to be on the TV that they're hosting it on and not on your phone. So I would look at my phone and be like, why can't I see the answers? And then look up at the TV and be like, oh crap. And it took me 2 questions, because I'm an idiot, to realize that. So I did okay at first. Yeah.
Not as much as you see.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I didn't do okay at first. I did terrible at first. And then when I caught on, I started to catch up.
Yeah.
But I did end up last in the trivia. And I would say, yes, I'm the one that cost us that, because all the other scores were very close together. And I very easily cost us that particular challenge, which I fully admitted to. But my tribe, instead of being all like, oh, we're going to be nice and rock, paper, scissors about it, we were like, no, we're all going to go like outside the conference room for a minute and spread out into groups here and there and discuss what we want to do. And I thought we had all made a plan to vote the one guy on our tribe out.
Yeah.
And then they voted me out.
That's how it happens. You
Yeah.
think there's a different plan because they're good at convincing you, and then you're ousted.
Yep. So I ended up getting out decently early on.
Tim.
Yeah, for real. But from us doing the podcast and me doing the other YouTube channel and me starting to get into editing, I got to thinking, what would be really fun is if I recorded what was going on in the episodes. If I recorded what was going on in the small groups and then made them into episodes. So I've been doing that. It's literally like little 2-minute videos where there's a little bit of like talk from
I didn't
Jeff.
know you were doing that.
Yeah, I can show you.
I want to see them.
Yeah. So Jeff will explain the games.
Sorry, Amanda's coworkers. I'm peeping in on your lives.
And then I start playing the Survivor theme song, and I cut out any audio from then, and it's like montages of people. See, I have done montages of people playing the games and then doing the votes, and then I'll cut the audio or bring the audio back in for like the voting because you can hear everybody go oh stuff like that. But so a few weeks go by, and last week was if you had been voted out, this was your chance at redemption. And
Redemption Island.
Yeah. And so all of the challenges obviously have to be office friendly. We're not trying to make anyone go out and buy a bunch of things for these things to happen. So it was a memory challenge.
Except for this lady DIYing all the idols and stuff.
Know, right? I actually got to help hide some of the idols because I wasn't like in play at that point, and boy was that fun. But she bought like these little gnomes like this big, and if it was a yellow hat, it's one thing. If it's a pink hat, I still don't know what yellow versus pink means, but I know that one color is it's an actual idol and the other is an advantage. So she brings out these cards and she's like, I'm going to do a memory game. We're going to start with like 6 numbers. And then
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Does the rest of the office know this is happening? Like,
yes.
If they see a random gnome sitting somewhere, are they like, oh, that's a Survivor game? Or are they like,
so,
what is this?
I would say there might be people who don't know.
That would be so funny.
But yeah, it would be funny. But the hiding of it has been really good. I think if you're not in the group actively looking for this item, you're not going to find it.
Okay.
But also,
anyway,
word has gotten around the office, and we have had spectators. Yeah, we've had 1, 2, 3. There's 4 or 5. There's one girl that I thought had watched, and then when I was having a conversation with someone the other day, I was like, maybe I had her confused with someone else. But so we've had people like come in and watch. We have one guy that like showed up to watch one week, and now he's like essentially part of production. Yeah.
I'm with you, sir.
Yeah. But this one girl that shows up,
bring the popcorn.
She has the best facial expressions. I'll show you some of the videos because I took this picture of her and one of the girls that had already been voted out, and she's like holding her jacket up over her face, and she's like, but like she does her eyebrows much better than I do, and she's just like, ah! But I've gotten some really good facial expressions out of people. So for the memory game, she would use the deck of cards to draw random numbers. And even if it was like a royal, it was like, 11, 12, 13.
Okay.
And you had to remember for 6 and then 8 numbers. And you had to remember the string of numbers, write them all down. And you had to have them all correct. You couldn't like have a majority correct. Like if you didn't get, yeah, exactly.
Intense.
Yes. And so I ended up winning that one. I knew if this was elementary school me who played memory games all the time, cool, fine, I'm great. But like I was like, I don't know, and I would think I had it, and I would start to write it down, and like 3/4 of the way through, be like, but what was the last number? So, but I ended up winning, and then the top 3 people. So the first person, me, doesn't have to play game number 2. I'm automatically back in. But 2nd and 3rd place have to play game number 2, and the winner of that also gets back in. And we're both immune next week. Mm-hmm. So, game number 2, and I'm so glad I didn't have to do this, because I've probably only done it once in my life and would have failed terribly, was building a house of cards.
Oh. Nope.
Yep. And she had
my
4...
hands are shaky now. I'm too old.
She had 4 decks available. Oh, I have some great video that I need to edit later of hands going... There's also a challenge we did earlier where a guy's hands were real shaky, and he's like, why did you zoom in on that? I'm like, because it's good television, sir.
It's a drama.
Right. So we had 2 deck of cards that were exactly the same. Same backing. They came from the same place. They were both brand new. Then there
Okay.
was another random deck of cards that just like they probably were new. If they weren't new, like you would look at them and be like, oh, they obviously have not been used much. And then there was a well-loved deck, which is better for building a house of cards.
Okay.
And I was looking at the two people who were still in and thinking about, do I want to give one of them an advantage or not? And I was like, you know what? I think for the sake of making myself look good to the other players, to the jury, and to the two people who one of them is now about to get back in, I'm going to give them the identical card sets, and then it will just be based on what they can do with that set, which they were still new slippery sets, and it was quite a chore. But I at least gave them an equal playing field.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. So one person gets back in, and then now there are 8 of us left that are in the game. And we also have a jury that is at least 4 people deep now. So one of my real life friends is, not that none of these people are my friends, but like someone that I've built one of the people I've built a relationship with over the years is in the jury. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have that person's vote. If not, I'm coming for you. No. So there's another person on the jury that I have been very helpful with and is a very sweet person, and I think is the one person that voted along the lines I thought we were going to vote along when I got voted out. Maybe that person will give me their vote if I get far enough. And then there's 2 other people that it's like wild
it's jury
card
management time, guys.
Yeah, we're thinking strategy now. So there's 2 other wild cards on the jury at this point.
Okay.
So after the small group was over and we had done all that stuff, and they bought us buffs too, like that was fun. So after we had done all of that, I started, messaging people at work, working like I should be. But I messaged a couple of them and I was like, hey, like, obviously I've been, even when I was making the episodes, like I would record people having their discussions, but I wasn't like trying to eavesdrop on the discussions, or I might be recording from a distance to like make the shot look good, things like that.
You can't hear them, but you can see them.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm wanting to get a lay of the land here. I want to see where I can fit in, because obviously the easiest thing to do would be to wait until me and this other girl don't have immunity and then just vote us out because we came back in late. So one of the people that I talked to was initially on the opposite tribe of mine, and they were wanting to get someone else out if they can next week or anytime after that. Yes. So it's one of those situations where their whole tribe had a plan, and then this person found out later that someone was going to blindside them.
They wrecked it.
Yes. So through the grapevine, this person finds out that they were going to get blindsided and who initiated it. And they're like, I want to get that initiator out. Well, there's a couple girls that have some other things going on. They haven't watched as much Survivor. While they are having fun, would not cry if they got out.
Yeah.
And so me and this other person that were talking, we were like, obviously in the real show, it's best sometimes to take at least one person that you feel like would be easy to take votes from at the end. Yeah. Like no one's going to vote for them, and then they will vote for you.
Right.
But I work in a very competitive environment, and what we really like to do is like be able to brag about how better we are than our other competitive peers. So we thought, you know what? Let's take all the people who are like going, to the wall right now, and let's make a final 5 out of that. And once we hit our 5, all's fair. We'll take it week to week, see who's got immunity, see who's left, make our bargains.
Floaters grab a life vest.
Right, exactly. So we're going to get rid of the floaters, and then we're all going to compete as hard as we can against each other. And then when we do have our final, I'm assuming it will be a final 3, maybe it will be a final 2 based on all of that. We'll be able to argue how we deserve to win based on our actual competitive values versus, well, I brought along this other person that it's easy not to vote for, kind of a deal. So we don't have $1 million at stake, so we can have more fun with it, basically. But it's so much fun.
Oh, it's so intricate and so well planned.
we have a chat at work around it, and Jeff put something in chat on Thursday, and they were like, Redemption Islanders, are you ready? And then an emoji beside it. And the emoji was a target with a little dart on it. And I was like, it could just be that she just picked an emoji, which is what it actually ended up being. I was like,
Aw.
or maybe I should go down to the 3rd floor and practice on the dartboard.
Right.
So I did. And then we played a card game. And when
pretty cool.
When the real show has its finale, we're all going to watch it together. We're going to have a watch party.
I got a bone to pick with y'all.
I know.
We have a watch party.
I know. I could probably get you invited.
One year.
I could probably get you invited. But I showed her
my couch. Let's be real.
I showed the lady who started the small group, and I can be a lot if you guys haven't picked up on that yet. And I showed the lady who started the small group. I was like, for the watch party, just hear me out. Yeah, I was like, we made torches. I had themed food. I sent her pictures and everything. And she's like, oh, that's so cool. Maybe we can incorporate that, blah, blah, blah. Like, and then I had started to talk to her about buffs and things at that point, too, because we hadn't had buffs yet.
Yeah.
But then at one point I was like, you know what? Maybe Amanda needs to reel this back a bit. And I messaged her. I was like, I just don't want you to feel like I'm trying to take this over. This is your small group. I just got weirdly excited about it. And I know I can come across as a little much sometimes. And she goes, no, shut up. You're fine. But yeah, it's been so much fun.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned, like, at the Traders show, they were like, we should do a small group around that. And I can just see this becoming a thing where, like, now we're going to have a bunch of game shows where I work. I need to catch up on that.
Speaking of new shows, there's a new season of The Circle that's out on Netflix. And I just kind of watched, like, the first 5 minutes of episode 1. And I meant to watch more of it, but my kid's been sick, so it hasn't happened.
Maybe we should do that.
But then I ran across a post on social media today that it's a guy, and he says, they used my photo as the AI character. And so I'm thinking they put somebody in the circle that's an AI-generated person to compete with the others and see what happens. And I'm extremely invested in figuring out what that's about. Like, they took a real guy from the internet and used his pictures and his age and stuff, but are using, like, AI to play in the competition.
Without his consent.
Well, yes. He says he's going to spill the tea on that later, so I'll keep you posted. But basically, he's watching the show, and his friends and family are watching the show, and they're sending him messages like, they used your pictures for the AI-generated person. And
you know what's really an interesting question?
Like, when you put your pictures on the internet, you sign away all the rights, basically. So it's like they probably just took his Facebook profile or something. But
that's the thing. Did they knowingly do it, or did they use an AI program to make an AI-generated person, not knowing that AI is pulling from certain sources?
From a real person?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. See, I haven't actually seen the episode or the part of the episode where they start to introduce whatever this new piece to the competition is. I just ran across his TikTok today.
Yeah.
So I obviously immediately followed him.
Yeah.
Because he said in the comments, I have tea, I'm going to spill the tea. But he probably has, like, this thing where he can't say it until a certain point in the game.
Yeah, he's got, like, an NDA.
Yeah. I'm sure at some point they contacted him and were like, hey.
Yeah.
You're about to be on national TV. Just say no.
That's crazy. Like, we could do a whole podcast on that, too. There's so much with AI, no matter what your feelings are on it, that it's like you don't realize certain implications until a situation actually happens.
Yeah. And there's no laws or protections or anything built in for us, so it's kind of like you're going to get effed before.
Yeah. Unless you join SAG, then maybe.
So beware.
Yeah.
Especially something a lot of parenting groups have been talking about is posting pictures of your kids online and knowing that, you know, with AI coming up and there being no rules and no laws and no regulations,
right?
You might want to be careful. So even just putting their face online, like the things that can happen with that. So some of us are already screwed because we've already been posting our children for years, and it is what it is. But lock down everything as best you can. Try to make better choices going forward.
I think it's going to be one of those things too, where like, it's going to come down to, you have the people who always believe everything they say and hear. And that's going to become more dangerous as deep fakes become more prevalent. because you can make it look like someone is saying something
The conspiracy
and they're
theorists,
not.
it's gonna go
Or
wild.
doing
y'all.
something. And I mean, obviously, they've already had the celebrities coming out with like, oh, this you know what tape was released, and it's AI, and it's not even
It's not
them.
me.
Yeah. And that's only going to get worse as time goes on.
Trying real hard to teach Ari, you cannot believe everything you hear and see on the internet.
Or maybe anything you hear.
You have to know the source. You have to go back and look through the research. You have to verify it by other parties. You know.
Yep.
It's
Crazy.
intense. It's intense.
Yep. Well, on that note,
on the downer,
if your work sucks and doesn't have a survivor small group, you should encourage them to start one.
We don't have a survivor small group.
You could play a virtual one.
I do have a coworker who watches Big Brother as religiously as me, but
nice.
She's not into Survivor.
You should get her into the fantasy that you and Mom do then.
Well, they quit doing that, so.
They stopped that one too? Why are they stopping the good ones? I mean, that one wasn't that great.
Yeah, this one wasn't great.
Honestly, but
well, I've heard maybe
that's
they're
our
not
$1 million
stopping it,
idea,
but they're doing
Nikki.
something different. I don't know.
Maybe we should
be
running
an app
those.
that makes it easy.
Yeah. Or if we come up with the fantasy apps and we make people pay $5 to join, and before you know, you're a millionaire. No.
You heard it here first, folks.
Working Moms Whine. Reality TV apps.
Who can
fantasy
build an app
leagues.
for us
Coming
with
soon.
algorithms?
That's right. Thanks for joining us again. As always, like, subscribe, and share on YouTube. You can follow us on Spotify as well. We have an Instagram. As long as TikTok still exists, there is one out there. We'll see what ends up happening with that. But we hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.